welcome. It is time for me to get back in the old saddle and start streaming again after a week of not doing it. I am Warren. Welcome to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, stream, whatever you want to call this. Hi. It's not really the podcast. It's a stream. It's a live stream. It's a stream that's alive. How's everybody doing? Did everyone have a lovely weekend? Did you miss me? Are you ready to take on the month of August with the being fully aware that summer is halfway done? Not to be a complete buzzkill, just a somewhat of a buzzkill. But yeah, we haven't had the pleasure for about a week, right? Last week was Redemption, and I head on out to the old Montreal to check that out at the Bell Center, and had a tremendous time. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed get to meet people, and it's a great time. So that's always fun when it comes to doing the live pay-per-views. So that was a lot of fun. Then came back. I recorded the review, and then Thursday I just zonked out. As I mentioned, last week was also the beginning of my shoot job vacation. So I'm off for 3-week vacation. I'm starting the second of 3 right now, and look, just stuff came together on Thursday. Things that I was like, I cannot refuse this, and I apologize if I didn't do a stream on Thursday. It was a little light news-wise as well. It wasn't exactly the most compelling stuff either. I don't think we missed much, is what I'm trying to say. I think everything was turned out to be just fine, with or without me, and yeah. So I was able to go and enjoy a bit of vacation time, and then but in the meantime, without shirking my duties as far as the G1 Climax 36 daily coverage, which I am still ongoing. It's still ongoing, and the Dynamite reviews, the weekly Dynamite reviews as well. So there you go. I was very happy nonetheless. But now I'm ready to get back into it. Now I feel like there's stuff to sink our teeth into. There's stuff to make fun of. there's a lot of hefty there's some heavy lifting stuff that we can be discussing here this evening. Oh, by the way, this weekend, and I'm immediately put off by everything. The stream seems to have stopped. What's going on? What? That's weird. Everything is... Really, it stopped for a couple of minutes. Everything was up. I'm even checking my logs here. That's very strange. That has to have been a generalized YouTube hiccup, because everything is functioning as normal. Everything is fine. Like, all of my logs say thumbs up, essentially. Isn't that interesting? That must have been it. That had to have been it. That had to have been it. Yeah, it's probably Juno chewing on the wires. I mean, look, if YouTube is having issues, I'm not quite sure what the issue is. Because I promise you, like, everything is super duper clean. And sometimes it does get a little rocky, but there were no rocks here. So did you hear me talking about Masters of the Universe? Where did I cut off? Because I started talking about how I listened to the Masters of the Universe. No, let me say that again. I decided that I was going to give the Masters of the Universe movie a shot this weekend. Because, well, for multiple reasons. And like I was saying while I was off, which is new to you, new to everyone because no one heard it. Because when I was a kid, I had a bunch of Masters of the Universe action figures. I grew up in the 80s when it was at the apex of its popularity, and I had a bunch of the action figures, and I had Battle Cat, and one of my friends had Castle Grayskull, and a bunch of that was the thing. Like in my neighborhood, everyone had the He-Mans. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch it, and I was already aware that the movie had not been critically well received. Put it that way. And I sit down, I power it up, and I am so put off by that movie, like within the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, there's just something, what is going on? Everything, like, I understand they were going for the camp. I understand what they were trying to do. That's the thing. It's like, I can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to go for the camp, but it didn't end up working. And I think one of the main reasons why it didn't work is because the main character was essentially male Gal Gadot. This is a guy who I really did believe, and I watched it a bit with Kristen, and we both agreed that they wanted this guy to be Chris Hemsworth, but without all of the natural charisma and star power and talent that a guy like Chris Hemsworth has. They wanted this guy to do goofy Thor. But the only guy who could pull off goofy Thor like that is a guy like Chris Hemsworth. I mean, that's exactly what they wanted to do with him. But the guy, like, I looked him up after, right? The guy was basically like in Lifetime movies beforehand, and he's a model, like he's a male model. And all the pictures you see of him, he's like, he's got, model face when he's smoldering. And like, this guy does, like, who picked this guy? Like, who did this guy know? Who owed who a favor to cast this guy as He-Man, as Prince Adam? It made no sense. And I was sitting like this, but trying to understand how I the viewer, when Prince Adam is on Earth, right? How am I supposed to accept that this conventionally attractive man with his dishy blonde hair was some kind of awkward goofball, right? And they tried, to dress him up in in shirts that were a little too big, and like, no, this dude is jacked. What are we doing here? Like, nothing worked. It's like what they did in the first Captain America, right? When they had Steve Rogers, they had him like skinny, and they did the special effects. Then you bought that, Steve Rogers at the beginning was, a little bit of a geek, So then when he does Hulk up when he does get the super soldier serum, you're like, holy shit, type of thing. And that's like He-Man when he does his transformation, when he finally gets the sword, which, by the way, I lost my sword, the sword of my people, and it's the most important treasure, and I have to find it. I got to find it back somewhere. What does this asshole do to try and find this sword? He searches online. He's going on eBay. He's opening up like fucking Facebook marketplace. He's Craigslist. He's just looking for pictures of a sword. That's how he figures out, how to find his. This is how much this sword meant to him. Sitting at his computer, looking at pictures, sending out DMs. That bit absolutely infuriated me. And I did something. I ended up doing something that I never do when I start a movie. When I start watching, I did something that I don't want to say never. That'd be wrong. Seldom. Rare. Super rare. Like, shiny Pokemon rare. I got to the bit where they're, I don't remember. Like they're about to fly off. They're flying off, and they're escaping. They're escaping with Man-at-Arms, right? And they're in this flying ship, and you've got the Skeletor's ships behind them, and he's about to get on like this flying scooter, right? To fly out and take on the ships head to head, right? So he gets on it, revs it up, the door opens so that he can fly out, and he puts it in reverse, and it hits the back wall. I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't do this. I cannot watch this movie, and I stopped it. I did not finish Masters of the Universe 2026. I apologize. Sorry to say. I couldn't do it. And the thing is, then after, I'm sure people are like, well, this is for kids, Warren. It's like, why do we think our kids are absolute imbeciles, first and foremost? Second of all, is it really for kids? What kid in 2026 is like, yeah, let's go see the Masters of the Universe? Like even generations previous to mine haven't been impacted by Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe is made for people 50-year-olds. It's made for me, essentially. Because no one else, the kids grew up on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's what so who's gonna go see this? Who's gonna go see this? That's right. It's the Gen Xers who are going to go see it because we're the ones who grew up with the fucking cartoon and the action figures everywhere. That's who everyone. The Zoomers don't want to see this. The millennials are going to be. The millennials want to see. They want to see Donatello and Raphael and Michelangelo and Leonardo and Master Splinter and talk about pizzas. That's what they want to see. Not this shit. And it's unfunny. It's so painfully unfunny and brutal. It's brutal. Like, it's so incredibly brutal. The fight scenes, they're killing everywhere, and they're stabbing people in the throats, and I mean humans, stabbing them in the throat and landing battle axes across the chest, and you're like, fuck, holy shit. Like, this movie was, it spread itself out like just like everywhere, and it tried to be ultimately like engaging and funny. They wanted to do Thor Ragnarok, but again, without all the charm and without Chris Hemsworth. They thought they could Chris Hemsworth something out of this male Gal Gadot. I don't even remember what his name is, but that's it's the best comparison. The guy couldn't act. He was a pretty boy. Just walk out and look pretty essentially, but the guy wasn't a very good actor, and he definitely couldn't do comedy. Anyway, that's what I did. Anyway, let's say hello to some folks here. Meg O'Kenna, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat, brother. Also, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. You know those are the real ones. Like DJ Convoy, how are you? Quick hi and bye. What? You mean you're not sticking around for me to talk about Busted Open? Convoy is also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. I bought the produce stream like a dope. Half of it will be good and half of it will be JCW garbage. Which one? Oh, this one. There's a produce show on tonight. Is it the Rocky one? Is it Rocky Romero's? Is that the one that's on tonight? Is this the one where they have Shuri and Hazuki in a match and Johnny Robbie in a match with Ali Catch? Is that what we're doing? AW1, that's our boy Travis. Nice to see you and welcome to the chat. Travis also happens to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So is Jay Luthi, who is here as well. Thank you for being here. Carlos, Sports and Things Shows, how are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Lovely to see you. Rory Starks, also nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone was panicking about the stream. Makes me feel good. Pedro the Fifth, nice to see you too, brother. Welcome. So nice to see you. Watching Masters of the Universe was like watching WrestleMania 2025. It thinks it's good and serves no one in it attempts. I don't know who this movie is for. It's just terrible. It really was just like, it really was like, hey, let's put all the things that people like in their adventure blockbuster movies, but without any heart. You know, like the Dungeons and Dragons movie was so much better than this. I mean, you know, what Chris Pine, right? Wasn't Chris Pine the male lead, right? He was tremendous. He was so good. Remember, asking Skeletor to fight you face to face when he has no face is ineffective until we meet again. That's funny. Say, Warren, what did you this is Mr. Antox. Nice to see you. Welcome. Hey, what did you think of the 2-night Summerfest? I didn't watch it, nor will I. Well, no one is going to get me to watch a 30-minute Roman Reigns match. No siree, no siree, Bob. I sound like the male equivalent of the weirdos that said Black Helen of Troy in the Odyssey took them out of it. Hey, I'm going to tell you. If anyone has a problem with Black Helen of Troy in the Odyssey, they've just got a problem in general. She's gorgeous. What are we talking about? Warren's review of He-Man. Utter woke nonsense, 5 bags of popcorn. Yes, that's exactly what I said. DGMC is here. He's also he's been a member for 74 months of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. That's a lot. But thank you for your ongoing support. Horny Nicole Kidman in kids movies, in kids movie Batman Forever. I mean, Nicole Kidman is horny in every movie. Like, that's like default, isn't it? Oh, it's the Tyga style tonight? No, they've done that one, right? The India movie was actually good because you can tell they liked the source material. Is this the thing? Like, I've not followed the development of the Masters of the Universe movie because is that like the thing? Is that the writers were? Is that like the consensus? It's like, you know, the people developing the movie were embarrassed. Is that the thing? Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I just picture the Masters of the Universe pitch being the key, being the key in Peel Gremlins 2 sketch. That's a good one too, right? It's a shame they can't talk to each other because of his that one guy's wife. That's a shame. Masters of the Universe has been in developmental hell for 35 years. So many different people attached over the decades: actors, writers, directors, studios. I mean, it's going to be in developmental hell for, like, it didn't perform well at box office, right? Right? It couldn't have. Masters of the Universe 2026 box office. Let's see. It's been labeled a box office bomb, apparently. So 46.7 million domestically and 39.4 million internationally. That's not good. On a budget of 170 to 200 million dollars. The film experienced a significant drop in ticket sales, making just 8.6 million in its second weekend. A 70% decline from its opening. Ooh, that's not good. Look, it stunk. It just wasn't very good. It's getting a sequel. What? Really? I'll believe it when I don't see it. All right. So we should talk about some pro wrestling, right? This is not the I'm not Movie Bob. I'm not the nostalgic critic. I'm not Your Movie Sucks. I'm not what was the other guy? There was one reviewer that I really liked years ago. And he had this big goofy cartoon face, like on YouTube. He had a big, like, his I hate everything. I hate everything. No, I did not like Masters of the Universe. I did not like it. So yeah, we have to move on. So basically what I'm saying, this is not a movie review stream. This is a professional wrestling stream, which is superior in every way. Stick with us tonight, folks. We've got ourselves a fun little show. We are going to be talking about things that that were picked up during TKO's Q2 financials, second quarter financials today. That is a thing that happened, and I've got some highlights and some things that might surprise you. We'll be talking a little bit about wrestling media again and wrestling culture, I guess. Some things from SummerSlam. Roman Reigns talking about Jon Moxley. We'll be going over all of that. So we'll be talking about it, but I'm not reviewing SummerSlam. Just to be clear, if it's your first time here, it's nice to see you. Welcome. But I will not be talking about SummerSlam. I did not watch SummerSlam. I am not planning on watching SummerSlam. I'm not going to watch a single match on SummerSlam. I'm not going to go back to watch a 30-minute Roman Reigns match to understand just how bad it was. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. Like, sometimes I will go back to watch, but I am not subjecting myself to 30 minutes of Roman Reigns. Because you know what's going to happen is that I'm going to sit down, I'm going to fire up the Roman Reigns Seth Rollins match from night 2, and I'm going to start watching it, and I know I'm going to get bored, and then the next thing I know, I'm on my phone. Like, I'm scrolling through Instagram reels. I'm looking at Dax Flame reels, who's incredibly funny. Maybe some reels, maybe some Tim Robinson reels. From one of the compilation accounts. That put all of his best moments from the Detroiters and SNL, which are not many. And I think you should leave. And then the match will be over. I'll be like, fuck! I could have been watching in the 30. In the 30 minutes that you can take to watch Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins night 2, you can watch 2.5, maybe 2.25 matches from the Stardom G1 as a 5-star Grand Prix. Excuse me. You could do that instead of subjecting yourself to that. So no, I'm not going to watch it. More than enough people I trust have told me it is a bad match, using those words. It is a bad match, and I'm going to believe them. I'm going to choose to believe them because there's no way I'm going back to watch that. Zach McGibbon is here. Nice to see you and welcome. Such a lovely man. Such a lovely, lovely man. If you love walk-in brawls and mid-match monologues, you'll love Roman Seth. Exactly. 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 No. Stardom would probably be much better matches. Listen, I asked my pals who are like really, really invested into Stardom because I'm realizing I'm just running out of time and I can't watch everything. So I'm like, do you have your recommendations? Any recommendations, really high level matches? And they created a list of 26 matches for me. Like, guys, are you fucking serious? And so far, they're not kidding. So far, they're not kidding. And I will even go as far as to say, I highly recommend everyone gets their peepers on Shuri versus Natsupoi from night 1 of the 5-star Grand Prix. It is an absolute top-notch, world-class wrestling match. Those ladies, it's one of those matches where you're like, hey, does everyone remember that this is not a real fight? It's one of those. And they are so fucking good. They're so incredibly good. Like, I'd go around the 4 3/4 star match level. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And that's not in the Grand Prix. That was on top of the Grand Prix on the opening night of the Grand Prix on night 1. I think that was the main event for the IWGP Women's title. Just absolutely phenomenal work. Write that down. Put it in your calendars. Find some time for it. You won't regret it. Shuri is absolutely crazy. Shuri is one of my favorite wrestlers, period. And I've been up and down on Natsupoi, personally. I've always liked her, but to different degrees. I think that now that this is her career year, like this is her all of her matches are going to be part of her exit. I think now she's just going to go completely ham before she officially retires to become a full-on Mrs. Shingo Takagi. Yeah. So I would much prefer watch that than whatever happened on night 2. That being said, stick around for this. My usual plugs. The Mr. Warren Hayes Show will be available per usual on Wednesday on your audio formats. No, it is not available on YouTube. It is only on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc., Pocket Casts. Whatever you use, it's there. So that'll be available. So on in podcast format on Wednesday, and then Thursday we are going to have the AEW Dynamite review per usual. I might even record it early. And then of course throughout all of that, my continuing ongoing coverage of the G1 Climax 36. I have been following this every day. One review recap every day with analysis on top of that. Now we're getting closer to the end, so we're talking about elimination scenarios. We're talking about who's going to be on top, and so now it gets really, really fun on that level. So I'm going to be continuing that on Thursday as well. It's a show that's going to be broadcast from Cork and Hall on top of that. So the guys are really going to go extra hard on that one. We're in the final stretch too. We're in the final stretch. This is all ending next week as far as the block action goes. So we'll be there. And by the way, a little personal note regarding that. I have company coming in to spend a few days here in the old Warren Hayes headquarters. We're going to be spending a couple of days here for over the weekend. So if you are locked in to my G1 coverage, I don't know how it's going to affect that. I don't even know how it's going to affect my live stream on Thursday. I don't know if I'm going to do a live stream on Thursday yet. It's very 50-50. There's a bunch of things that have to fall into place. Anyway, spare you the details. I'm not quite sure if there's going to be a live stream on Thursday. So, just stay close to the Discord, to Blue Sky, or to the to the community tab here on YouTube, and you'll be abreast of all the latest developments. And then I'll keep you posted on the daily G1 coverage, because there's 2 shows, Saturday and Sunday. Why did I start with Sunday? Saturday and Sunday this weekend. That's going to be happening as well. So we'll see how it all comes together. But you know what? I'll figure it out. No, I'm not putting my visitors on the show in any way, shape, or form. You don't deserve them. You weren't expecting that. So there you go. That's the long and short of it. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss anything. We'd love to have you. I guess we're good to go. Are we good to go? I believe we're good to go. I believe we are good to go. I think what I need to do, though, is one thing I do need to do is wait, what's going on? How you doing? Shush, Jacques, I'm talking. I think one thing I need to do, I may need to refresh a little bit the music, right? The background music. I think we need a little refresher. It's been the same tunes all the time. Yes, it's very comfortable. At the same time, you just want something different. Right? But we don't want anything different than our boy Jacques here.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Mollier. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself.
That's right.
I'm a nunchuck master, and I represent NWA, Mountain State Wrestling.
Hoo-yah! Royalty-free Zansky. You mean the first song, my opener? Is that what you mean? That's a custom. That was made on demand. I requested that. That is not just something you pick up on the web. That is my property. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here, by the way. I appreciate you all. Let's get this Monday stream out. Let's kick it full gear, full force, full throttle. This is just as a little, to laugh a little bit. We oftentimes just need a little something to giggle at, right? Busted open, guys. Oh, they were so happy to be front and center at the SummerSlam yesterday or Saturday or whenever it was that they showed up, right? And then to appear on TV, right? Dave and Bubba and Tom and who's the other guy? Who was the other guy? Who's the other guy? Well, it wasn't Nick Nemeth for sure. It was a fourth guy. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Someone in the chat will probably tell me, but honestly, I don't care. And they got it, and they were on there labeled as WWE Radio, right? Because we talked about it not all that long ago, just before Redemption. Oh, Mark Henry, thank you. Mark Henry was there. He was there, and he was in tip-top shape because he had taken his reindeer organs before heading off to the SummerSlam. So these guys were I'm sure you recall, Busted Open is now part of WWE Radio. They took over the Sirius XM channel that used to be, I guess it was La Greca was the main operator, but they went and bought it off, and now it's WWE Radio, right? And now they were all displayed, all 4 of them, and they were going woo, and everyone was going woo. And it was such a lovely, lovely moment, right? But then there's this little excerpt, and I guess came out of Busted Open today, right? A little exchange between Bubba Ray Dudley and Dave LaGreca. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. This is and it's like a play. It's like I'm gonna be reading. It's like I'm gonna be doing a public reading here. Bully. This is Bully Ray because I just want to stay. I want to stay consistent to the source material, even though I don't call him Bully Ray. I call him Bubba Ray Dudley. Bully. Freaking WWE rolled out the red carpet for us. LaGreca. They really did. Bully. Forget about yes, the partnership is what it is, and I've said this on the air to you hundreds of times, you have overextended yourself to every wrestling company on the planet. LaGreca. Some of those companies thank me by putting me in section 313, row 24. Bully. How did the WWE thank you and us? LaGreca. Putting us in front of in the front row and identifying us during the broadcast. Bully. Has any other wrestling company ever put us on the front row and identified us? LaGreca. No. Bully. Should they have? LaGreca. Yes. Can you believe these two motherfuckers on their radio show going, we're finally getting what we deserve? Dave, you've worked so hard in this business with your little radio show on satellite radio. I can't believe that no one ever in any other promotion ever gave you front row tickets. Can you believe how well we were treated? Oh. And they put us on TV too. Oh, that's years of work, brother. It has nothing to do with WWE buying us out and rebranding the entire network that we're on, channel, I should say. That has nothing to do with that and then them wanting to get us on TV. No, this is because of all of our years of hard work. Can you believe it? How is anyone listening to this and going, yeah, that's right. That's right. You worked really hard. You should get front row seats. You run. This is something that maybe a lot of people don't want to come to grips with, okay? Having a radio show on satellite radio is a glorified podcast. It's legitimately just it's a step above. Why? Because you get directly paid by the radio station to do your thing. It's essentially a glorified podcast. And we're not going to sugarcoat this. This is not on the public airwaves. You can't pick this up on your favorite AM, FM state. Are there still even AM stations out there? Is that even still a thing? If I were to get a tuner and cycle through the AM dial, am I picking up something, or are the AM airwaves effectively dead? Anyway, food for thought. And they're sitting there on and you know what they're doing, and I would know what they're doing. They're taking shots at AEW. What other promotions has he overextended himself to? What? First of all, there are no other promotions out there than AEW. TNA, I'm not surprised if you were given row 313, row 24 with TNA, because TNA is TNA. I'm not even surprised that AEW gave you section 313, row 24. Not with the amount of shit you guys say about the promotion. There all day on your little show, 85% talking about WWE and how great it is. And then, oh my God, the bloodline and Roman Reigns and then you turn around and the 15% radio air time that you have left, you give 5% to TNA and then 10% to AEW, and most of it is just to say, where the stories, LaGreca, where the stories, LaGreca. That's all you say. So yeah, I would absolutely toss you into section 313, row 24, and not give you any airtime and say, hey, there's Dave LaGreca of Busted Radio. Tune in to hear everything great that WWE does and to find out everything that we do wrong. Because Dave has all the answers, along with his partner, Bubba Ray Dudley. Remember him? He was in a mediocre tag team back in the day, stole a gimmick that didn't even belong to him in ECW to bring it over to WWE and sort of worked that into a tag team where thankfully he was able to work with other tag teams much more talented than him so that they were able to make him seem more important than he is. And then after that, his career was just in a downfall, and that's why he's doing a glorified podcast on satellite radio. These guys are like, this is a work, right? This is a work. I hope everyone realizes this. I mean, they can't be this delusional. They cannot be this delusional to be saying to themselves, this is a reward for all of the hard work Dave LaGreca has put in all these years to get front row tickets to SummerSlam. They can't be that delusional. They have to realize they have to realize that the reason that they're there is because they got bought out by the company, right? Right? And they can sit around in their little hug box and talk about how, oh no, I talked to Nick Khan and Nick Khan said, I don't want shill radio. I invite criticism. Fuck you. There is no way I believe it. Look, let me rephrase that. Maybe not fuck you. How about I don't believe you? I could believe Nick Khan coming to you and saying that to your face because Nick Khan just wants to say what you want to hear and be pleasant and whatnot, and then goes back. But then he's got his media guys who are going to be keeping tabs on you. And besides, it's not as if you were all that critical of WWE to begin with. Like, if you were really critical about WWE, Dave LaGreca and company, you would have buried that main event just like everyone else did. There's some very surprising people who buried that main event, but you didn't. You didn't. And why is that? Why is that? Why is it that on your end of the spectrum, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins was an acceptable wrestling match when everyone else, there's a consensus, even among WWE fans, that the main event was not good. Oh yeah, we're very, very critical. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whether we're going to continue being critical of WWE. They weren't very critical of WWE to begin with. It was never that kind of show, not towards WWE. The transformation meant that they were going to be exclusively WWE. The transformation, the thing that we were talking about, that we were bringing up wasn't whether or not they could continue to say bad things, nasty things about WWE, but rather the things that they will no longer be able to talk about, like AEW, like TNA, like wrestling in general. And again, it's not as if they were doing that all that much to begin with. They weren't doing it all that much to begin with. If there was any criticism, Jesus Christ, it was the mildest criticism ever. It wasn't anything severe. Anyway, I thought this was incredibly funny and incredibly sad. This is an extremely sad conversation to have on airwaves. That's extremely sad. And they're working. I'm convinced they're working. If they're not, they absolutely have no self-awareness. Not a single crumb of self-awareness in their bodies. Crazy stuff. Anywho. The format is Bubba and LaGreca passionately debating who loves WWE more. It makes sense to me. Hey, how you doing, Hikaru? Welcome to the chat. I am here with my Pro XM radio quality Canadian radio host. I don't know if that's is that complimentary or insulting? I'm not quite sure. They're just working like the company they're cozying up to. But remember, everybody, WWE doesn't care about internet media. Oh, they care. Listen, they care about media. They don't care about the internet. But we also know that's phony baloney. Tony Khan gave these guys exposure ahead of every Dynamite back in the day, and this is how they thanked them. Yeah, you're right. Tony Khan did show up like to sort of hype up Dynamite on Wednesdays, right? And then he stopped when he realized that they were just fucking grifters. Anyway, more media talk. We're going to do some more wrestling media talk here. There was this article that was published a couple of days ago, July 31st to be precise, on the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online website by Brian Rose, saying with the title, AEW asks for too much of my time. This is an article that got a lot of traction over the weekend. I'm not going to read the whole thing, not like I usually do, right? Because, there's a fair chance you've already read it. If you don't, I invite you to go check it out and make your mind up for yourself, right? You know, there's a lot of, basically what Brian is essentially saying is that there's AEW produces a lot of wrestling and it's too much for him. And he makes some solid points. There's a couple of things in here where I'm like, well, you know, if we were having a nuanced conversation, that would be interesting. It would be something to focus in here. But I'm going to argue here based off of one thing that he says here in this article. That obviously I've highlighted for those of you who have the benefit of video right now. I'm going to read it because this is really the part that irritated me. I'll just go ahead and do it instead of doing too much exposition. Let's just go ahead and read it. As part of my job on this website, I cover shows from WWE, AEW, New Japan, AAA, and most other top promotions in the evening. I enjoy my job, but at the same time, it can be pretty exhausting. Everything changed when AEW came onto the scene in 2019, and the workload has only increased since then. Between two new 2-hour shows, SmackDown going to 3 hours, and AAA having a consistent weekly television show, among other additions. Now, this bothers me because it connects with something that I have said multiple times across my vast presence here within wrestling media, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Everything that has to do with shows being too long, having too many shows to review, to complaining about there being too much wrestling is 100% a content creator problem. It is not a real problem that concerns fans. Okay? It's not. And I have a problem, a legitimate problem with people who are paid to do this. Okay? You are paid when you do this for one of these websites. You are paid to sit back and cover professional wrestling. Okay? You get money for it, for watching TV and watching pro wrestling. Do you know how many people, dozens, maybe hundreds of people, how many of these people would trade places with you in a heartbeat for that job? Do Do you understand how much of a coveted spot you have? And your response to having all of this wrestling to cover is, it's exhausting. Come on, man. Like, seriously. I don't understand it. And it's funny, right? It's not the first article in this vein that we've discussed recently here on the channel. It's funny that suddenly all of these types of articles start popping up right around the time WWE, their hot streak is cooled off, right? And Paul Levesque is being exposed as this uncreative, uninspired middle manager. Suddenly, we're getting we're getting a burgeoning format of articles from writers and from podcasters as well that are coming out of the woodwork with this new basic format, going, man, wrestling stinks these days. Isn't that odd? And isn't it odd that AEW gets zoned in on here, right? AEW with its 4 hours of weekly programming, that's too much to ask of them, right? Certainly not the 6 to 8 hours of WWE programming across Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AAA, and everything else they put out, right? Certainly not the pre-shows that WWE puts out, right? The post shows, the pay-per-view spread over 2 days, right? And look, he actually puts the numbers in his piece. So let's talk about those numbers. He says WWE is 6 to 8 hours a week and AEW is 4.5 to 5 hours with overruns. That's disingenuous. That's just not true. He says on pay-per-view, on top of that, on pay-per-view weekends, WWE adds 3 hours and AEW adds at least 5. And that's not an honest comparison. I think he's being very, very disingenuous here. AEW has 1 pay-per-view a month. WWE, once you factor in the NXT premium live events, they can have 2 a month. AEW overruns are usually 10 to 15 minutes tops. 10 minutes tops usually. So we get 1 week, which is this past Wednesday on Dynamite. We get 1 week that happens to go over like substantially, like 30 minutes long, and suddenly this becomes the new baseline. Now it's suddenly Dynamite every week with the overrun is 4.5 to 5 hours a week. Like, no. And at least 5 hours for an AEW pay-per-view conveniently ignores that WWE runs 1 to 2 hour pre-shows before their own premium live events. So he's cherry picking numbers to make the promotion he doesn't primarily cover look like the bigger burden. It's like putting the thumb on the scale at the butcher's. And we're not going to let him walk back what he's actually saying here, because the headline, as we recall, let me just put it back up here. The headline is literally AEW asks for too much of my time. He's not being subtle about it. He rattles off every promotion he supposedly has to watch, that he covers for the site, and tells you it's exhausting. That is the too much wrestling argument, right? Whatever he wants to dress it up as later. Now, I don't mind him reaching for solutions like he does, pacing, structure. He compares a well-paced show to 5 hour New Japan shows back in the day that just flew by. But these are also shows that often ended with 30 to 40 minute main events. Like, that was the baseline for the New Japan main event for a long time. And a lot of people thought that was self-indulgent and exhausting and too long. I don't think it's the one-to-one fix he's suggesting here. And here's something a lot of the wrestling bubble people fail to understand. And I think this is crucial here. WWE and AEW, they are not making programming for wrestling bubble people. Not for Brian, not for Warren Hayes, not for Sean Ross Sapp or Joe Lanza or Mike Johnson. They're not making their content, they're not producing it for us. They're making it for their fans, the people who actually invest in the product and make choices about it. These choices can be, well, I think this week I have to skip Dynamite and Collision because XYZ reason. Well, maybe tonight I'm not gonna watch SmackDown. I'm gonna, I'll play some Metal Gear Solid 2. Whatever. Go out with the boys. Go see my girlfriend. Whatever it is. Those are the choices that these people can make. These articles, like Brian's, get written like there's some universal truth that's being uncovered here. But the average wrestling fan does not watch half as much wrestling as critics and pundits, analysts, people like me do, right? Normal people skip shows all the time. Like I said, they've got a date, they've got a bar mitzvah, they've got a dodgeball league. I don't know. This argument only applies to people who supposedly watch everything. And even the hardcore fans listening who watch pro wrestling, maybe even some of you listening right now, you make choices too, because you don't watch everything either. You watch more than the average fan. That is absolutely sure, right? But you still pick and choose. You don't watch everything, but you'll watch more, but not everything. And this is an argument that exists in the minds of critics for critics about a problem that critics have. It is not a real world problem that the general population is involved in or is aware of or should or needs to be concerned of. And that's because the wrestling companies are creating their content for their fans independently of what the other guys are doing. Could you imagine WWE going, yeah, I think we're going to have to cut back 2 hours a week because, most wrestling fans, they don't have time to watch AEW. Yeah, come on. Come on. It's not honestly, look, when it comes to WWE though, that's probably the whole plan, right? Flood the market, make people choose, and they'll probably go and choose WWE, right? The household name, the big machine, the recognizable brand. And guys like Brian Rose are falling right into the trap to a degree, right? They can see the forest for the trees, but they decide there's just too many trees and wish, it was, maybe they wish that there was more of a plain. Oh, maybe I wish I could see the grove in the middle, It's been absolutely fascinating watching these older podcasters and writers lose it since AEW showed up. And they were perfectly happy when it was just WWE. Now they're as far as North American pro wrestling goes, there's choice, there's variety, and they're shaking their heads about it. They're crossing their arms going, And I legitimately think that since a lot of these guys came up in a world where WWE was, the prime one, whether they came up during the 90s or in the 2000s or a mixture of both, there was a time where WWE was unchallenged for years. All they know is WWE, and now they have to engage with stuff that isn't WWE, and WWE is their favorite promotion. It's probably the promotion that they prefer. It's probably the promotion that they're more biased towards, and they just don't want to say that part out loud. So instead, they give us roundabout ways as to why AEW is asking for too much time, because you can't challenge WWE's grip on the market. No. You can't challenge that. You got to challenge everyone else, because WWE, I like that. That's my thing. Brian, in his article, in the little blurb that I read, in fact, says that he covers all of these promotions, right? New Japan, AEW, WWE, AAA. Well, let's take a look. We have the site here pulled up for those of you with the benefit of video. Let's take a look at all of the, let's look at all the coverage that he's doing for the site. Okay, well, he's, little articles here, more articles, WWE articles. There's one for TNA, there's one for UFC, Batista article, and WWE, and they're I'm not seeing reviews. I'm seeing articles. I'm not seeing any recaps. What is he covering for result of the double title match on SmackDown? Okay, maybe he was watching SmackDown. All right. Then there's his article here. 2 more title matches set for next week's WWE NXT. Is this his coverage? Main roster wrestler returns to WWE, says last 2 career have been an absolute embarrassment. Again, is this how he's covering it? Just watching, just sitting down and watching and writing down news? So he's not reviewing, he's not breaking things down, he's not giving his redemption, I saw the word redemption here, his opinions or anything? Like, Hikaru Shida versus Meyer World TBS title match result from AEW Redemption. How is this exhausting? How is this exhausting to be sitting down and just pulling out headlines of shows that you're watching? And I'm assuming that there's other people doing it because there was more news coming out of Redemption than just Shida versus Maya World. So there's other people doing it as well. So you're not even alone in doing this. So the coverage is mostly WWE. It's a little mixed. I'll grant that. It's not something that is exclusive. But he's not sitting around, like fucking Larry Zonka, punching out his thoughts as he goes along. He's picking, choosing headlines. What's the effort here? What is the effort? Why is this exhausting? And if your job genuinely requires you to cover everything and it's piling up and it's piling up and you're not being compensated properly, I'm sorry to say, that's not an AEW problem. It's not a WWE problem. That's a you problem. You want to cover just WWE, just say it. Or ask for a raise. Stop pretending you're drowning in New Japan and AAA coverage. I haven't seen a thing, and this is G1 season. I'm waiting for your G1 Climax thoughts, Brian. Now, exhaustion can come if you're watching something. Exhaustion can come if you're watching something that you don't like, which sort of adheres to my theory that I was putting out earlier that, maybe what we're really dealing with here is someone who would prefer to just focus on WWE and the WWE universe. Now, he's not wrong about one thing. There's a lot of TV wrestling right now. I would even say there's too much TV wrestling right now. And that is a genuine complaint to have. And there's a real nuanced conversation to have about pay-per-view length and pacing and match length and structure and what's necessary and what's not. Look, in my Redemption review, I talked about Shida Storm and the chain match were completely unnecessary on this show. And those are good, worthwhile conversations to have. But there's too much wrestling to watch and it's exhausting as a fan-facing complaint from a paid wrestling writer, I cannot get behind that. I cannot get behind it. Because every time it's the same energy from these guys. You know, you feel like they're burnt out and that they get disconnected from the product, and then and it comes across. It's not just Brian Rose, it's Brian Alvarez, it's a bunch of people right now at the Observer, right? My honest advice is just take a break. Step away for a bit. If you're losing the passion, step away, move away, and find the passion again. Let it come back. Normal people, normal viewers of pro wrestling do that all the time. But like I said, I think deep down, there's a lot of these guys here who are at the source of these conversations who just wish it was only WWE. And they're finding ways to dance around the idea of not outright saying, I would prefer it was only WWE, by cooking up cockamamie controversies like this. That's the code. That's what this is really about. And I probably would have ended up agreeing with Brian on a lot of what he said in this article if it hadn't been written from a oh, poor little me, look at all the pro wrestling I have to watch, boo, boo, hoo, hoo. You know, like if it hadn't been written from that perspective, if it hadn't been written from that perspective, then, you know, I probably would have had a completely different conversation to have here. Look, you know what's happening? This article and the conversation that spawned around it, it's making me agree with Mike Johnson. Of all the people I could be agreeing with, Mike Johnson is a guy who comes out with the most fucking sensible post. It's a rather long post that he put on Twitter, but I'm going to read it. Perhaps the silliest thing I've seen of late is wrestling fans complaining about the amount of wrestling and time they get for shows in AEW. Now, everyone can feel differently, but as a kid, I always enjoyed NWA TV Weekly more than WWF because, excuse me, as my father used to point out, there was more wrestling for your time investment on the shows. Tonight's SummerSlam, he posted this on Saturday, had less than 90 minutes of bell-to-bell action. That's okay if that was enough for you, but throwing out reporter, writer, whatever, as a fan, I want the most for my time investment and my dollar. If I go to see the new Spider-Man film, I'm thrilled it's 2 hours and 30 minutes of fun action. If I am a wrestling fan and I get way more than I paid for in the ring, as opposed to a lot of time-filling commercials, promos, etc., I'm a happy guy. I'm all for any company that gives talents the chance to do everything they can, to perform and better themselves. It's one of the reasons ECW spoke so much to me. Do these shows end late? Yeah, certainly. But we also live in a world where you are legitimately ordering the pay-per-view. You can go back and watch the replays when you want, and with a DVR, you can record the shows for your enjoyment as you wish to consume them. Watching them may be my job, so I need to watch in real time 99% of the time, but it isn't yours. Emphasis mine. Again, my feeling is this. There is a bounty of riches for fans in AEW and other companies right now. Love what you love, because one day it might not be there. Then you won't be complaining there's too much of anything. Like 2001, you'll be missing what you used to have and feeling like there's not enough of what you loved anymore. So there's a lot of reasons to be happy Tony Khan cared so much to enter the space. AEW helped balance the scales back towards the days where there was an AWA, ECW, Crockett, WCW, whatever. It gets dissected to death because it was the first national competitor to launch in the social media era, and it's fair game that it does. But to me, any promotion that gives you that many top-notch wrestling matches a month with so many talents, many of whom never would have fit into the WWE jigsaw puzzle pre-AEW launch, that's a great thing to have. I know we all complain about stuff, but to me, complaining about getting so much wrestling that is over-delivered to you, that one seems silly. Cherish it. I've lived through losing stuff you love. It sucks. I don't want that for any of you. Not everything has to be your favorite thing every week, but I do say appreciate that it exists. And remember, you can consume it how you want, when you want it to be there for you, when you want it to be there for you. This stuff is meant to be escapist entertainment for your enjoyment, so enjoy. He is absolutely correct. Like, it's almost as if he inhabited me for a few. Gross. But nonetheless, it's exactly how I feel about this whole situation. About people complaining that the show's finished too late. About how there's too many shows that I don't have time to watch. And as if the regular fan has this absolute obligation to watch everything live at that very time and couldn't put it off, couldn't skip a week, couldn't skip 2 weeks, couldn't skip a month and then come back. Start the pay-per-view and it's 10 p.m. I'm going to head to bed and I'll watch the rest over lunch tomorrow, whatever. What is this? What is this culture we're living in? There was a time that was it. There was a time where, and I lived through it, where if you didn't catch it at that time, you were done. But now you can consume this at any given moment you want, at any time you want. You know? It's just as simple as that. So it's crazy. It's crazy that I'm in an environment where Mike Johnson is making absolute fucking empirical sense. And to wrap this up, it's a bit of an aside. This is the second article of this type of complaint, specifically honed at AEW, that I've covered from the Observer website over the past couple of weeks now, just recently. And the Observer used to be the place for hardcores, right? The place where you actually went to learn about what's happening across the world of wrestling. Really to find out what was happening in this promotion and that, and especially in Japan back in the day, and all of it, all of it was done by by people who cared, they were just so into it. Now the Observer feels like it's run by crotchety old dudes who want one thing and one thing only. There's no diversity of coverage really over there anymore. There, sure, the night G1 Climax 36 night 6 results, and you have the results, but you got nothing. There's no passion coming through. The website is turning into SEO slop. That bothers me. It's something that I've brought up, and I'll say it again. Where, if this is what's happening to the Observer, where do the hardcores go? Where do the fans of pro wrestling go to? And I unfortunately don't have there's a lot of alternatives. We've mentioned them multiple times. There's Post Wrestling, there's the Voices of Wrestling, there's WrestleNomics. Just off the top of my head like that, those that I frequent very, very often. You know, it's like, I don't know what we're going to do at some point. I don't know what the hardcores are going to do. Anyway. I don't think Brian enjoyed all the attention that his article got, because he was going online saying, I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm just sharing my opinion. And when you write an op-ed, when you write an opinion piece, you have to be ready for people to disagree with you. Okay? Now, I understand it's the internet, particularly on Twitter. People are just going to lose their shit, right? They're going to call you all sorts of names and whatnot. And, you know, it is what it is, right? But you have to be able to receive the critique. You have to be able to stand tall and stand by what you're doing instead of going, well, I'm just sharing my opinion. Yes, we know you're just sharing your opinion. That's what you decided to write. And it just so happens that your opinion is public record now. And that makes that open to critique as well. It goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways. Just like everything that I say here on this stream, on this channel, on everything, it's all open to criticism. I'm not, not invulnerable to that, and I'd welcome it. But no one ever critiques me because I am right all the time. But that's a joke. But the last thing, that I saw go around quite a bit was that people were dismissing it. It was like, oh, well, he's just an old guy. He's an old guy. He's disconnected. He's just an old guy set in his ways and whatnot. And, I'm not one for ageism. That's not, I'm not going to sit here and go, that's ageist. I don't give a shit, But listen, I'm over 50 years old at this point, right? I'm curious. I look for new things, interesting things, different things. I try stuff out. I'm open-minded. It's not a question of age. It's a question of mentality. You're either open to new things. You're either open to change. You're either open to changing what's making you feel bad, or you're not, or you just accept it and move on. That's just a simple, that's just how it goes. I don't want to say that I'm better than everyone else, but no, what I'm saying is that it's a mentality. It's a mentality thing. It's like having, it's like having an uncle who exhibits all sorts of bad behavior, right? And everyone at the family, he's always exhibiting this bad behavior, at Thanksgiving or whatever family gathering you have. And you're old enough to sort of start asking questions like, well, why doesn't anyone stop him from doing said bad behavior? And the answer you get is, oh, well, that's, old Uncle Norm. You'll never change him. He's set in his ways, right? That's fucking bullshit. That's bullshit. Now, that's not a good way to approach things, That's because you're enabling that type of behavior. So that becomes problematic, and you're allowing that person to continue doing their own thing, right? I hope Brian had was able to take some of the criticism to heart, maybe see where others were coming from. I know it might have been hard in the flood of nonsense that he was certainly overcome with. But this was a very poorly packaged op-ed. A woe is me op-ed. A woe is me situation about him having to consume too much pro wrestling. I don't care. I don't care. But yeah, we're in too many. Refuse to be a little uncomfortable. How you doing, Obscurity Knox? Welcome to the chat, brother. Member of the channel on top of that. That is very true. That is very, very true. I was just sharing my opinion. It didn't matter and others would share theirs. Exactly. Big Man Dogs, nice to see you and welcome. Warren was wrong about Oscar and I'm planning to hold him accountable. Hey, I can be pleasantly surprised, right? I am very pleasantly surprised, that being said. I've been I've been saying nothing but nice things about Oscar on the daily G1 coverage for the Climax 36 G1 show. Observer now knows their bread is buttered by rabid fed heads searching for WWE glaze. I mean, I think it's like an overall SEO thing. Like if you search in Google, right, for wrestling related topics, the Observer, the Figure 4 Online Observer website is rarely it rarely shows up in the search results, and that's SEO. So that's why they're changing things. That's why they hired a guy to do that, and that's why some of the articles showing up on the Observer are just junk. Fightful took the crown. I don't know, man. No disrespect to Sean and everything that he's built there and whatnot, but I don't consider Fightful to be a place for hardcores. Hey, Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. It's so nice to see you. I think it's fair to ask what the editor wants. Most writers have editors that prefer a promotion. Sure. But we're not talking about how articles are structured. We're talking about a writer who outright says there's too much wrestling because I can't keep up with everything. And I don't think that's an interesting, that's not an, more specifically, there's too much AEW, so I can't keep up with wrestling. I don't think that's a fair point of view. Whatever his editor's expectations are, I don't think that's a fair point of view. I wish I could just sub for the Observer, not the Figure 4 stuff. You know what Dave should do? I think Dave should split from the site, go back to doing his own thing, and open up a fucking Substack. Okay? He should open up a Substack or whatever. I know Substack is full of Nazis. You know, a Ghost or whatever. One of those. Or just a Patreon. And deliver the Observer on a weekly basis from there. Drop a couple of scoop C's throughout the week. But have complete control of his thing. And all that money goes directly into his pockets. That's what I'd do at this stage. That's what I'd do. But this is Dave Meltzer that we're talking about, who had a Juno.com account for his email right up till like 2018 or something. When did he switch? Like, you know, he's had that fucking Juno.com address like right up into the 2015s or something. Like, this is a guy who, you know, technology, he barely understands it. Like, I some people told me about some of the processes that he has or that he had. I don't know if he still has them, but up until fairly recently, maybe 7-8 years ago, where just like some old stuff working on antiquated versions of Word. You're like, why is he doing this to himself? You know, why isn't he opening up a Google Doc, right? Well, because Dave can't understand that. But Dave Meltzer should absolutely just do the Observer on a Substack, like on a Patreon, just like flood it out and just do his thing. That's what the people want from Dave. I don't even think people want the Wrestling Observer Live all that much. I mean, it probably pays well. It's probably good money they make off of it with the networks and whatnot. But did you see the clip of Dave calling AI A1? Yep. See what I mean? That's exactly it. See, he still has the computer and macros that his dad built for him. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't know it was that public knowledge. He still had, and there was one week that the macros stopped working because there was an update. So the observer didn't come out. The observer didn't come out because he was like, well, and it turns out like his fucking macros weren't working, so he couldn't get it out. You're like, open the fucking Google Doc. What are we doing here? Dave is also the nicest man alive and would never do that to Brian. That's also true. That's also very true. I've never met him, but I have heard from multiple people that he's just incredibly nice and very genuine. Unlike me, I'm a phony. This explains why he has to work until 4 a.m. and can't watch Mercedes versus Maya. Exactly. Oh, incredibly funny stuff. All right. WWE today released its financials for the second quarter of 2026, and we are going to talk about those. But a few things, but we're going to talk about big picture stuff, and one thing that I really want to talk about that I want to dig into a little more. Okay. But here are the highlights that came out of today's filing. Of today's call, actually, because the filings were done anyway. Warren, why are you doing this to yourself? Total revenue is up to $620.9 million for quarter two. Year over year, that's a 12% increase. Last year was $556.2 million. That's a lot of money. So where does all of this come from? Where did all of this money come from? Well, the usual four buckets, right? Which we'll get to in a second. Adjusted EBITDA, which is the profit number that the companies actually care about, is $368.3 million, up from $329.8 million, which is also, paradoxically, 12%. And for the first time ever, and for the first half of the year, excuse me, I can't even understand my notes now, WWE crossed $1 billion in revenue for the first time. So through the first 6 months of 2026, it earned $1.0966 billion against last year, where they did $947.7 million. So here are the four buckets in which all this money comes from. First of all, the media rights, production and content, that equated to $359.7 million. A year ago, that was at $278.9 million. That is a 29% growth and is the biggest accounting line by a mile. And now it's 58% of everything that WWE brings in. A year ago was 50%. Now it's 58%. Consumer products and licensing brought in $46 million. A year ago, $33.3 million. That's 38% growth. So it's it's merch, right? It's merch, but specifically the filing credits, trading cards, and collectibles. So there you go. The Fanatics relationship is clearly working out for them. Partnerships and marketing, sponsorships, if you will, $63.2 million. And a year ago, that was $58.3 million. Excuse me. That's about an 8% increase. New sponsors, higher renewal fees. There we go. Then, live events. $152 million. A year ago, year over year, that amount was $185.7 million. That is an 18% decline. So live events are not drawing as much. All those impressions, all your gut feelings, all of your, following the totals over there on WrestleTix are proving you right. WWE is making less money at the gate. And I want to dive into that a little more. Because, live revenue fell by just about $34 million. So your first instinct is, which a lot of people probably are thinking is like, well, they're running less shows. They said it themselves. They're not doing house shows anymore. They're running less shows, and that's reasonable, right? But it's also completely wrong. If you compare year over year again, okay, from 2026 and 2025, the premium live events that they've run as of Q2, of course, that's it. As of the second quarter, year over year, they've run 7 pay-per-views, premium live events, as opposed to 8 last year. They've ran 45 televised events so far in 2026, as opposed to the same time last year. 40 live events were run. Non-televised events, they ran 28 non-televised events, or house shows in 2026 so far, as opposed to 12 at the same date last year in 2025. So that means that in 2026, they ran 80 shows total up until this point, and last year they ran 60. And the interesting thing is that out of those 80, 58 were held in the United States, whereas 22 were held internationally. Whereas in 2025, they did 58 shows in the US and 2 internationally, which is crazy. So premium live events are the only place that so far they've done one less, but they've done more in every other category. Televised events, non-televised events, they've done more shows. That's a 33% increase overall in volume. And that's crazy. Because their strategy was to do less, and now suddenly they're doing more. So across the whole half, it's really 43 international dates against 16, right? Domestic went from 105 to 117, so basically flat. Every bit of the growth went overseas, and the house show business more than doubled. So put it together, one fewer premium live event, 20 more shows overall, 20 more international shows, right? Non-televised dates, and live event revenue went backwards. $34 million. And the main thing that's driving that was WrestleMania. And that was TKO's own explanation in their own filing, is that the decline was, as they said, almost exclusively WrestleMania in Las Vegas. And I'm going to quote this because just for clarity, Vegas, quote, was revisited for a second consecutive year, unquote. So that's a publicly traded company telling the Securities and Exchange Commission that running WrestleMania in the same city 2 years running cost them money. Mania 41 was the Vegas debut. Everyone flew in. It was a main event. Well, it was an event. It was a great event. And Mania 42 was Vegas again, and people who made the trip once didn't necessarily make it twice. And the second, I think there's a second part here, and that's the international expansion isn't quite paying off for itself yet. WWE's direct operating costs, according to the filing, went up about $15 million in the quarter, and the filing specifically names higher logistics costs for additional international events. On the overhead side, travel rose 10.3 million. So 22 international shows is a lot of flights. It's a lot of freight. It's a lot of ring trucks, and so on and so forth. The revenue just didn't follow, at least not in this quarter here. And here's the detail that reframes the whole thing. If you take a look at the first half instead of just the quarter, and the live event revenue is actually up $13.5 million. So why is it up here? Well, because the filing says the financial incentive packages associated with an additional premium live event in Saudi Arabia. And financial incentive packages is, fancy corporate word speak for site fees, just in case you're wondering what the hell that means. So the live business is not growing because more people are buying tickets. It's growing because there was an extra date in Riyadh, and that site fee covered more than covered a soft WrestleMania. Strip out Saudi Arabia from the equation, and the actual business of selling tickets to human beings who want to watch wrestling in a building got suddenly smaller. But none of this matters really because against the media rights money, right? Not even close. We've said it so many times. The business of pro wrestling in 2026 is the media rights. So, live events lost $34 million. Media rights gained $80.8 million. And so, that's not a fair fight. You know what I mean? The rights money didn't just cover the shortfall. It covered it more than twice over and had enough to hand TKO a 12% growth quarter. And, the filings credit specifically ESPN and Netflix. The press release said notably ESPN and slightly undersold it because both contracts are sort of stepping up at once. Domestic premium live events on ESPN, weekly programming on Netflix, and the checks get bigger on schedule, essentially. So they talked about ESPN in the press release, but Netflix is also doing its part. It's in the filing, which is why media rights is now 58% of WWE's revenue, up from 50% in 12 months. So, it's shifting. It's shifting towards money that arrives whether or not anyone shows up. Yeah, but that's been the format for a long time at this point. So, the rights fees essentially don't care about your WrestleMania gate, right? Doesn't care if the Mania shows felt tired the second time. It doesn't care if the SummerSlam show this weekend is soft, the money contractually arrives regardless. And TKO has $15.9 billion of contracted revenue on the books for future years. That's crazy. That's just nuts. So, TKO's rights money covers everything. So, you could say, oh, TKO doesn't care about the live business anymore, right? You could say that. You could absolutely say that. But, TKO is greedy. This is a company that cut personnel costs while expanding to 22 international dates. This is a company that borrowed $930 million and spent $967 million buying back its own stock in the same 6 months because handing cash to Silver Lake was a better use of it than almost anything else they could think of. TKO doesn't want most of the money. It wants all the money. It's a greedy ass company. That is the entire operating philosophy. So no, they're not relaxed about this. They're not saying, well, who cares? Somewhere that, like in an office on Fifth Avenue, there's $34 million of a missing gate, $34 million of missing gate revenue that has a name attached to it, And the rights money isn't a cushion that they get to sit on. You know, it covers everything they need, and the rest is gravy. The rest becomes more revenue and more profit, essentially, right? So the rights money doesn't make them stop squeezing. It just means, you know, they're going to squeeze on their schedule, essentially. And they're probably going to get worse about certain things, you know? So that I thought was very, very interesting. And then there's mentions from recent legal proceedings as well. The filing may mention the stockholder settlement. It's the lawsuit over the 2023 sale of WWE to Endeavor. We talked about it not that long ago. Former WWE shareholders, right, alleging Vince steered the deal to keep himself in power instead of getting them the best price. If you recall, the trial was set for June 8th. Remember, we covered this. We even got a little audio, and we were very, very excited about this going to trial in Delaware, right? And was going to put Vince and Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan and others on a witness stand. But it settled. It settled. The trial is canceled. Nobody testified. So now the numbers, because they're finally public, we know how much WWE is dishing out over the settlement. $105 million is WWE's share of the settlement. And this is what they say. It's WWE's share of the settlement. Expected to come back, though, from insurance off of this, because all of these things are insured. WWE is expected to get back from its insurance $75 million. So actually, this lawsuit ended up costing them a $100 million lawsuit ends up costing them $30 million. That's crazy. That's just crazy. The plaintiff's experts had put the damage to shareholders somewhere approaching $1 billion on top of that. So $30 million, no testimony, nothing. It's, still have to go through the settlement and whatnot. It's, of course, we don't know how much Vince is shelling out here. Whether he's doing it in the first place, and if so, how much. But we can assume, since they're talking about their share, we can assume that Vince is paying out himself as well. But it's crazy. Now we go through this. WWE ends up paying $30 million. No one testifies. For all of these shenanigans, there's no testimony, no one facing any real consequence here, not even the company. $30 million, that's kind of chump change. Now they're ready to move on. It's settled, it's done. We're not going to speak on it anymore. They also mentioned the Janelle Grant lawsuit as well in the filing, saying that on July 20th, the parties signed an agreement for her to submit her claims to arbitration. On July 24th, Janelle filed a stipulation of voluntary dismissal of the federal case with prejudice. This was all disclosed in the filing. So essentially, WWE had been pushing for arbitration for a long time, and they got it. Arbitration, of course, is private. There's no public docket, no public filings, no public testimony, no discovery landing anywhere. The claims aren't necessarily gone. They've just been moved into a little corner of the world where we will never see them, essentially. And dismissed with prejudice, by the way, means that the federal case cannot be refiled. But they also mentioned that the Ring Boys suit is still available, still going on, with the 8 unnamed plaintiffs alleging sexual abuse by a former WWF ring announcer in the 80s. TKO, WWE, Vince McMahon, and Linda McMahon are all defendants in the case. In December, the court dismissed claims that made from the plaintiff against Linda, but otherwise denied the motions to dismiss, which means 7 plaintiffs are proceeding. So that one is still coming up. So this is all what came out of the second quarter of 2026. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I'm particularly interested, fascinated, I should say, by the live show situation. It's pretty crazy, actually. So that's that for that. Let's move on. Should I do this? Yeah, I want to take a little break from all the. Anyway, we'll go back and forth here, but I do want to talk about this. Julia posted a statement following WWE SmackDown on Friday night. Julia lost to Lash Legend on the show in a match that went 2 minutes. I watched the match because it could be posted on in its entirety on social media, so I got to see it. I saw the whole thing. And, do you miss Divas era wrestling? Do you miss Divas era wrestling? Because we got that for you here. Let me tell you. With the win, Legend qualified for the interim WWE Women's Championship ladder match at SummerSlam. Julia posted the following on X after the show. To everyone who was rooting for me, I'm sorry this is how it turned out. But here's the thing. Don't fucking worry about me. I'm stubborn as hell. I don't fucking quit. I'm tough as nails. This is what drives me. Bring it all the fuck on. I'll get through whatever comes my way. Come at me, all of you. Yeah, there's some extra notes here in the article that we just read off of the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. That, folks, is a very, very interesting, and social media post to put out there. One that I'm pretty sure WWE PR did not have a chance to approve because of the language that was used. And then she did censor the F-bombs. Maybe that's enough. Like I'm not up to date on WWE's social media guidelines for talent. Maybe that was enough. But is it just me, or does that smell like someone who's reading the room and who maybe is feeling a certain way and knows her time is up, that her time is coming up? I'd say so. Of course I'd say so, because it's my interpretation. I read that, I'm like, oh, she knows she's about to get the axe. For whatever reason. Maybe they're not coming up with ideas for her, any creative for her. I don't think it's just her being pissed off at losing in 2 minutes to Lash Legend. You know what I mean? I don't think it's necessarily that's pissing her off. I think there's probably a bigger thing at play, such as, like when she says, I'm sorry this is how it turned out. Everyone was rooting for me in WWE, right? For WWE to work out. I'm sorry this is how it turned out. I mean, that could be that I read that absolutely as a comment on her tenure in WWE. Because she came in with such, I don't want to say fanfare, but excitement and expectations because of the reputation she had built on in Japan, right? Being this kick-ass wrestler and so on and so forth. And now it's like, look at what I have to show for it. Look, I don't think anyone with a reasonable mind can say that Julia's run in WWE was anything other than disappointing, right? I think, look, I've maintained this, right? Everything that made Julia, that made her interesting was taken away from her from the minute she started learning the WWE style of doing things, because she couldn't throw, like I like to say, she couldn't shoot headbutts to the NIL trainees. They'd go back and go, owie, Mr. Hickenbottom, she hit me for real in the head. She couldn't do that. Like most of Julia's offense, when you go back and watch her stuff that she was doing, in Stardom, it was like, was extremely violent. That was her thing. And she didn't hold back. She got a reputation of being, she has a reputation and whatnot. When she says here, I'm stubborn as hell. Yes. Yes. That is the reputation you indeed have. So they took out everything that made her special. So what do you end up with? Does it show limitations in her game at the same time? I mean, that's an interesting conversation to have, isn't it? If all you have is shoot striking, your opponents, and you have to go work elsewhere, who maybe aren't exactly privy to you, like actually hurting your dance partners. What does that say about you, essentially? But then again, you could also say, well, WWE isn't exactly the best place to thrive when it comes to developing yourself as a pro wrestler. It's not, the WWE style doesn't exactly produce the biggest wrestlers on earth either. The best wrestlers on earth either. Biggest, that's a whole other thing. But the best wrestlers on earth, no, we're not developing those in World Wrestling Entertainment. So, that's her thing. Puts that out, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if she's released from WWE by the end of the year. Look, we just had a conference call. There may be releases sooner than later too. That's usually how it's been going with TKO recently. It's a situation where it's like, don't pick up the phone. Or maybe in Julia's case, maybe she does want to pick up the phone and someone say, well, you're not going to work here anymore. And she's going to go, fine. I'll go back to Rossi. Rossi, who used her to get on WWE's good side, to get some special favors from WWE. Oh, could you send me Io Shirai to come wrestle in my promotion? That'd be nice, please and thank you. Could you do that for me? Rossi Ogawa. Jerk. Anyway. So we'll see what the next steps are, but this does feel like a statement of, I'm done here. And I can only hope that it goes that way for her as well. I really do. Despite, all the memes we could make, and the fun we could have at her expense, I really do hope that she gets out of WWE. It's not working for her. She's not developing. She's lost on. She's just someone else on the mid card. She's just another woman on the mid card, which is crazy when you consider where the pedigree she had coming in. That's just crazy. It's Sin Cara levels, sorta, kinda. Mystico was a bigger star overall, but like as far as treatment and Mystico, well, he also did not rub people the right way. There's a whole bunch of things. Maybe there's part of that too, you know. But she was a much bigger star internationally before joining WWE. So she'll have opportunities waiting for her. Look, we'll see how this goes, but this really does feel like like she's ready. She's getting ready to slam the door on something here. I think Tony may have been upset that she worked stiff with Willow. Actually, not just stiff potatoing. I would be. I would be. Jesus. She was going around swinging at people? Like taking legit swings? I feel like we've been talking a lot about WWE, but there's really like a lot of WWE news that came out over the last couple of days. Lots of stuff popping up, lots of things that are extremely irritating. But I want to touch on this too. The return of the press conferences at WWE events, at least at SummerSlam, right? The post-show press conference. Holy moly. People got excited for that, didn't they? People got real excited for that. And the wrestlers did, and the wrestlers did too. And they showed up and they started saying stuff that for a guy like me, I'm like, okay, this is good content. This is good stuff to talk about. Very excited about that. Let's read this article off of the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Roman Reigns opened up regarding his past with Seth Rollins following their match at SummerSlam. Following his victory on Sunday, Reigns told Jackie Redmond at the start of the SummerSlam post-show that tonight was a special moment for him. When asked what he told Rollins following their match, he talked about their history dating back to their time in Florida Championship Wrestling. Oh boy. I don't know if Chad, if you've seen this quote, but it's a good one. So this is what Roman said. Here's the exact quote. It's always been me and you. Since FCW, since the Red Rooster was bitching at us, it's always been me and Seth. It's always been the two of us. Even in the Shield, we already knew what it was. We knew Dean Ambrose was a wild hair, but we knew we was the guys that was going to change this place. We're the pioneers of this place. When people left, when people was scared, when they ran off, we held the fort down. Incredible quote. An incredible quote by the original Tribal Chief Quarterback one. And one which is deeply rooted in insecurity. Oh, Lord. Can you imagine? First of all, you know AEW is doing well. You know AEW is doing well when WWE feels compelled to talk about it, albeit, offhanded, in an offhanded way, when it has to talk about it on its programming or its talent. AEW's in a good place. And this is systematic. The more you look, WWE is the place to go hear talk about All Elite Wrestling. This has been the case for years, and now there was a time where it's sort of all died down, and now look up, rears around, comes back, and now they want to make damn sure that Dean Ambrose is the forgotten member of the Shield, right? I've seen the pictures. Like, I didn't watch the match. I can't say this enough. I'm not watching SummerSlam. I'm not watching a 30-minute Roman Reigns match. You could probably pay me enough. I was going to say you couldn't pay me enough, but you probably could. You probably could pay me enough to watch 30 minutes of Roman Reigns. But for free? Fuck no. And they were doing Shield references, and they were doing the reference with the chair shot, and then they did the fist bump at the end, and it was like, yay, Shield. Why are you bringing this back first and foremost? Like it's always something that look, I know why why they're going back to that. Well, because it's a Vince idea. Because this is another Vince idea that worked, and Paul Levesque has no ideas. He's completely bereft of creativity and imagination, and all he has is going back to Vince ideas, right? That's why when he came in, it was so hot, because he was still coasting off of the Bloodline and Cody, and those were Vince calls, right? Ever since Vince's main ideas sort of petered out, Triple H has been unable, I was going to say not even shoot on goal. Anyway, it's an amazing quote, because we're trying to erase Dean Ambrose from the history and make it all about these two here, about Seth and Roman, right? And it is infinitely funny. Because when you think about it, and it's when you think about it, Roman Reigns' career has always been about insecurity. It's always been about being unsure as to whether he's a top guy or not. Himself. From the days where he started up, when they broke up the Shield and Vince started pushing Roman down everyone's throats and said, no, this is the guy. And he was being rejected, to all the way up to this fucking acknowledge me stuff, right? You can't have more of an insecure guy than a guy whose catchphrase is in fact, hey, tell me I'm the best. And he's supposed to be a babyface. That's also the thing. Riddled with insecurity. And where does all this insecurity start up? I'll tell you where it starts up. When Jon Moxley and Seth, what was he called? Tyler Black. When they joined FCW, there were a lot of people who were excited about that, because these were two exciting prospects from the indies, and they were coming in, and people were excited to see what they were going to do. And then they end up being tag teamed, put together in a unit, right? With this other guy, this big hulking dude, Roman Reigns, The Rock's cousin, Dwayne the John Rock cousin. and they form a unit, and people were legitimately excited for this act. They were legitimately excited. But even back then, anyone with a pair of eyeballs could look at that trio and know that FKA Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, was the guy of this group. He was the guy. That's why they put them together. Dean was the charisma, he was the mouthpiece, right? He was the guy, quick wit, could talk, that was his role. Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, he was the workhorse. And then you had the big guy. You had Roman, the star, the guy that Vince had earmarked. This is the guy that I'm going to make a star out of. This is the guy that they're going to cheer for. This is my next John Cena. He saw it. That's what he wanted. Despite the fact, and that's who they pushed, Roman. Despite the fact that Dean Ambrose, as I said, was the guy, was obviously the guy. And that is something that could not have sat well with Roman all this time. It absolutely had to have eaten at him. People saying, oh, you're just there because you're The Rock's cousin. People saying, well, you're the third guy in this group. These two other guys are so much more talented than, and it was true. It was true. Now, Seth, maybe not as much, but Mox today could run circles around Roman. Preposterous. I know all pro wrestlers are insecure somewhere, somehow, some more than others, right? MJF, legendary insecure, and that's fine. And it's also very much a part of his personality as well, but all wrestlers are insecure to whatever degrees, right? But Roman has to have felt completely abandoned, I guess. He has to have felt like he was just nothing for so long. Just always feeling like he was less than. Because it was the case. The only reason he became a star in this company was because Vince decided that he was going to be a star. It wasn't because of his work, which is fine. It wasn't because of his mic work, which stunk. It wasn't necessarily because of his charisma, which you can't say he's charismaless, but particularly back in the day, but he didn't know how to use it. He didn't know how to connect with an audience. But the WWE machine kept fabricating stuff around it until they finally came into this final form, the tribal chief stuff. Now he has aura, I've been told multiple times. He's got aura, you see. But he felt compelled. Or he was, this was part of the show. You enjoying the show? It's all part of the show. To go at the press conference and say this and talk about, take a shot at Jon Moxley. You're like, why are we doing this? What? Why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense. But that's when like I said, this is when you know. This is when you know that AEW is doing well. This is how you know it lives absolutely rent-free in the minds of all of these people. And specifically Roman Reigns. And especially when he sees Jon Moxley. All he has to say to Jon Moxley is, you ran away. Right? This is essentially what he's saying, right? When people left, when they were scared, when they ran off. How much do you think, chat, it eats Roman Reigns alive inside, seeing Jon Moxley out there living his absolute best life? Right? Going out there and doing things that he could have never done in WWE. Being an ace of a company for 5 years consecutively. In 2026, having one of the absolute best runs of his career. And people agreeing on it and being excited, stoked for him. People talking about Mox with respect, with excitement at the idea of his matches coming up. Whereas Roman is, wow, all people have to say is, well, he's the OTC, acknowledge me. No one going around saying, I'm so excited to watch a Roman Reigns match. And he's going around the world, working everywhere, gaining respect, like real respect, putting in the work type of respect, truly carrying a company on his back level of respect. How much does that have to be eating Roman alive to sit down and take time from the company that he works for to say this statement directed at people who don't even work for that company? It's crazy how much Roman Reigns has become unlikable. over the past few years. And not just like, in the 2010s when they were over pushing him, I don't think everything was directed at him specifically. I think it was directed at the push. People were like, no, he's not a top guy. That was the criticism. He's not this guy. He's not the top guy you want. I don't think anyone outright was like, Roman Reigns is a terrible person. I don't think that. And I'm not saying that today. But the Roman Reigns, the person, the individual, the public persona, much less likable. For some reason, he's gone down this weird path. And I'm not even talking about who he likes to hang out with and what his politics are. Just find he's disagreeable. Not fun. He's not fun. Everything seems heavy and nasty, and it feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder. And I'm like, why do you have a chip on your shoulder? You are one of the biggest stars of the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. You are making ungodly amounts of money for minimal work. You don't even have to show up every week. What's your fucking problem? I don't understand that. I don't understand how these people get so wealthy and call their shots and whatnot and are so fucking miserable. I just don't understand. But you know what? Hey, here's the thing. It is what it is. It is what it is. And they can do whatever they want. They can do what they want. But ultimately, this is one of these signs. It's one of these moments where you're like, oh, WWE's worried about AEW again. That's all there is to it. I love that every wrestling pod I listen to has that Triple H impression. Which one did I do? It wasn't What We Do. What was the one? Or was it What We Do? I don't remember. It's become such second nature, I don't even remember. Dodger Boy 22, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Very nice to see you. First time here, if I'm not mistaken. They paid tribute to Mox in the match. This was a kayfabe shot at Cody and Punk. Was it a kayfabe shot at Cody and Punk though? I'm wondering. We knew Dean Ambrose, like they specifically talk about Mox here. I can see where you can also throw in Cody and Punk in there. But like when Punk left, Roman was barely a baby on main roster. Was he even on? When did okay? So as my mind is all wibbly wobbly when it comes to time, so I'm not going to say anything. But when did CM Punk leave WWE? And so in 2014. And when did Roman Reigns? Just to make sure we got everything aligned here. Okay, so they did join in 2012. Okay, so there was a bit of crossover. Look, time is very wibbly wobbly for me. Look, I took this as a shot to. I took this as a shot to Roman, to Dean Ambrose. I mean, it absolutely makes sense if they want to cover all the ground and say this is also Cody, this is also Punk. But all the shield stuff and whatnot, I don't know. I don't know if it's, it feels rather pointed to me. It feels rather pointed. That's just me. But I guess like all great art, there is interpretation. Was this great art? That's a whole other thing. Inestimate CFBB. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat as well. He's empty inside. Yeah, he really is. He really is. The Shield broke up in 2014. Yeah, like the Shield. The Shield was a very good starting off point, and had I guess a very popular but short run. It wasn't even as influential as people like to remember it as. They also had a skull mask on the ground when they did the Shield fist bump. Well, then good. Look. If all of this was cool if all of this was also considered Mox or Dean Ambrose as the third missing member, and they wanted to like you guys in chat are saying that they wanted to pay tribute to him, that's nice. That's good, in fact. But, I look at this and I read this and I'm like, okay. What did Mox do this time? Because Mox is definitely not going around talking shit about his former guys. He's got a full book. he can just send people off to read the book. If you want to know what I think, I've already written it all down. Essentially. We got a couple of things. They did box signatures and finishers to buy them both during the match. As they, if that's what they should be doing, that's, if they're paying tribute to the Shield, that's what they should do. It's just very weird. It's you and me. It was just you and me. It's you and me. From the days we started in FCW, it was you and me. So there was 3 of you. I don't know. I don't buy that it was just a shot at Punk and Cody. I don't buy it. But hey, listen, might be proven wrong. Maybe the new chatters have figured it out, and I might be proven wrong. And look, it wouldn't be the first time that I'd be wrong on something. It doesn't happen very often. It wouldn't be the first time. But we'll see. Or will we? I don't know. I don't know. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to save a couple of things here because, it's about time to wrap things up. There's particularly one thing that I think will be great for a live stream. If I do one on Thursday. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud here. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Nonetheless, we covered a lot of stuff. It was a good time. And I want to thank everyone for showing up. If this is your first time here, hey, consider subscribing. You will never miss another live of the Mr. Warren Hayes show ever again. That's crazy. You're like introducing me to your parents. Maybe not. But it is it is a good idea to subscribe. That's very cool. And if you're already subscribed, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You're very awesome. I subscribed and missed the show. You didn't do the bell gimmick. So that's the thing. You gotta hit the little bell thing, because notifications are very hard for YouTube. 30 more minutes. 30 more. No, not tonight. Not now. Warren, are you going to have a 24-hour archive stream like Val just came out with? No. I first of all, I thought it was really cool when Rich launched that, and I was like, wow, that's actually pretty neat. But no one wants to go back and listen to my old stuff. No one does. I don't even want to. I don't want to go back and listen to what I was talking about in 2019. Recapping Raw earnestly and whatnot. I'm not into that, sorry to say. It can stay buried away. If you guys want to go and have a nice time, go knock yourselves out. Some crazy shit, no doubt, was being told back then. But the Valve thing is pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool. It's cool that they have the catalog to do that. So that's nice. That's awesome. It makes me happy for them. Good job. Thank you for the good job. I appreciate it. Thank you. Release the Warren Hayes files. They're all there for everyone to go sniff around in. I need Warren's blue pants takes. That's probably the kind of take that I would have given at the time. And now I'm like, who the fuck cares? So just as a reminder, Thursday was Wednesday, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast gets released on your favorite audio platform. So on podcast formats only. The G1 Climax 36 daily coverage returns on Thursday with the show in Corkin Hall, which I'm very excited to watch. So that's going to be happening Thursday. The AEW Dynamite review as well. And depending on how things go, there might be a stream. There's usually a stream on Thursday evenings, but this one is a little 50-50. It'll depend on certain elements that are currently still very much up in the air, like a juggler juggling things that are up in the air. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a nice Monday evening here as well. I hope you have a great rest of your week on top of that. And whenever it is, I will see you next time. Okay? Okay.